Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from across the world. Welcome to the third annual convening of Black Student Success Week. We will discuss the holistic wraparound centered around Black Student Success Week. It's been 2 years since the pandemic, within a pandemic. And as you know, the vaccine for COVID is out, but the vaccine for systemic racism still permeates within our system. Today, we have the phenomenal opportunity to discuss with thought leaders, systemic change agents, researchers, look at data, practitioners, policymakers, faculty, and students to see how we can center the student's narrative beyond mattering. Our institutions should be a place where our students not only survive, but they also thrive. And so we hope that you join us upon this journey as we go on to the next slide to discuss Black Student Success Week, Beyond Mattering, the Student's Narrative. This program has been brought to you by, if you can go on to the next slide, please, the phenomenal partnerships that we have with our institutions. We have gold and silver sponsors. And as I see that you are all clicking, there you go, thank you. And please, as you welcome into the chat, drop in the institutions you're representing. Our goals, we'd like to thank our gold sponsors from Keenan, Connects Ed, LCW, San Diego Mesa College, North Orange, Continuing Ed, El Camino College, Cypress College, Fullerton College. Our silver sponsors as well from the Foundation for California Community Colleges, University of California, the California Community College Chancellor's Office, Compton College. We also have Victor Valley College and Atkinson, Anderson, Loya, Rudd, and Romo. Thank you. Next slide, please. I'm joined by my phenomenal colleagues and co-moderators, Professor Eric Handy out of American River College, who's also a board member, executive board member, and secretary of Amend, and Katrina Linden, who's with the Campaign for College Opportunity, who will be taking your questions and ensuring that we have a digital conversation as you follow us online. We thank you all for this opportunity. We hope today you engage with us, listen to these stories, listen to the commentary, continue the success that we need for our Black students to not only survive, but thrive at our institutions. And that being said, I'm gonna turn it over to my phenomenal colleague and co-moderator, Professor Eric Handy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bull. And yes, welcome back, radical leaders, practitioners, and students for the third annual Black Student Success Week. We just want to first give a big social media plug and encourage you to engage in the conversation, encourage you to continue the conversation because on social media, you can follow us at CA Black Students. That is on Instagram and Twitter. Also know that the webinars will be streamed live and available on our YouTube. As well, we have big surprises in store for our third annual year. We have a giveaway alert. Next slide, please. Black Student Success Week is creating a new landscape for students to succeed. And we want to say a big thank you to those who attend the week by giving away hashtag Uber Eats promos worth up to $100. That's right. To enter, follow at Black Student Success. Again, CA Black Students. Register for a daily webinar, and then create a post and or tweet using the hashtag the Black Hour and or the Black Student Success Week. Every day during the week, Black Student Success Week, one lucky winner will receive up to $100 in Uber Eats code. Come on, clap it up. They talking about food insecurities, and that's what we're here to do to help close the equity gaps. And so this is one way that we can do it. Winners will be announced daily during the Black Hour, and bonus, 50 additional winners will receive $20 Uber Eats codes every day. These winners too will be randomly chosen from the daily webinars at the registered list. And as we are giving away information and we're giving away Uber Eats cards, we want to announce our first winner. It is at niche_the_quick on Instagram. Again, our first winner is at niche_the_quick on Instagram. Hey, we're trying to get a hold of this student. If you know this student, please ask the student to return our request or a message on our social media platforms. We have a winner chicken dinner again. It is at niche_the_quick at Instagram. Without further ado, we want to get into our program. We have a very tight program for you. The agenda is full and packed with opening remarks from the California Community College Board of Governors, President, and our Chancellor. We have a data presentation from Dr. Frank Harris III from San Diego State University and Dr. Darla Cooper from the RP Group, as well as a keynote address from the Department of Education and something I'm really excited for, something called Black Table Talk. Without further ado, I want to start with an introduction to Trustee Haynes, who has served on the Los Rios Community College District Board of Trustees. Shout out to the Los Rios Community College District. I know you tapped in for more than 20 years, including 4 terms as board president. She also sits on the Board of Trustees for the Community College League of California and the Los Rios Foundation Board. Without further ado, please welcome the illustrious President Haynes.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. And I am delighted on behalf of the Board of Governors to welcome you all to the 3rd annual Black Student Success Week. I have been to all 3 and look forward to going to more. I've changed my remarks just a wee bit because about 2 hours ago, the Board of Governors met to talk about, we were involved in a study session, and the title of that study session was Leading Inclusive and Anti-Racist Institutions. That's what we have to be about. And so our Board of Governors, we were part of this process so that we could learn more about it. It was honest, it is rare, and I want to commend those who helped to design it and to share their truths. And one of those is one of our own, Dr. Bull, and also Vice Chancellor Dr. Gonzalez and Dr. Martinez. It was one of the most profound, one of the most powerful presentations I have seen in a long while. And I am hoping that we can distribute that across our system, recognizing that the work that has to happen on each and every one of our 116 colleges, our 73 districts, our 1.8 million students. We all need to be a part of not just about talking about how to change our systems, but we have to be about doing that, the actual doing, the action that is necessary. And we've got to be both intentional and unapologetic. So this week for me is really about our students, about those students who are on our campuses and what they need to be successful. And it's also about our faculty, in particular, our African-American faculty. So my message is to the students who will be attending and be participating this week. We need you. You need to talk about and to tell your stories and to speak your truths and your experiences. They have meaning, and we need to hear them. You will have an opportunity in the weekly webinars to do just that. You will also have an opportunity if you're planning to do legislative visits virtually, to speak to legislators and their staffs. I used to do that work. I used to be one of those staff members. And I can't tell you that the student who comes and speaks to staff and to legislators, you are the stars. You are the main event. And I say that because you have the stories of your personal experiences, and they are powerful. They are powerful because they help to form and to formulate policy. So please stay engaged. I also want to speak to our faculty, especially our Black faculty. Those of you who are presenting or leading one of the daily group discussions this week, I want to tell you, we need you on our campuses. We need our students to see you, to engage with you, and to partner with you in the work that all of us need to do. I would say that our students cannot be what they cannot see. We also know that you, our faculty, have gone above and beyond in the work that you do, and that we owe you a debt. And we thank you for the work that you do each and every day. So I want to close by saying, I want you to have a wonderful, engaging, and thought-provoking, but also a successful week, and look forward to seeing you on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Haynes. You are absolutely correct that action is needed, and we have to be intentional and unapologetic about what that action is. Now I'd like to introduce someone who embodies the impact that California community colleges are having in transforming lives. When growing up in South Central Los Angeles, Oakley recalls that the expectations of going to college for children from a Mexican-American family are similar to like those of a Black American family, between slim and none. However, Oakley found his opportunity at Golden West College in Huntington Beach, setting him on the path to where he is today. And he is devoted to preserving this path for others. Eloy Ortiz Oakley has been the Chancellor of the California Community Colleges since December 2016. He is also the University of California Regent, serving a 10-year term that began in 2014. Before he became Chancellor, he served as a superintendent and president of the Long Beach Community College District. Let's give a warm welcome to a radical leader, the Chancellor of the California Community Colleges, Eloy Oakley.
Thank you, Dr. Handy. Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be with you all. This is a proud moment for many of us, including me, that we are having this conversation this week, all week. And I hope that we carry it forward for the next 365 days after this week, because that's what it's going to take. So I will be brief because there are a lot of tremendous speakers here today that I'm looking forward to hearing from. I do want to give a special thank you to the California Community College Chancellor's Office. The team at the Chancellor's Office is behind all of you in this work, in support of what we're trying to accomplish here. I also want to thank the Academic Senate of the California Community Colleges, the Student Senate of the California Community Colleges, and the Faculty Association of the California Community Colleges. They've put in so much effort and support into this work, and I just want to publicly thank them for being completely behind this work. What I would like to leave you with is this. We are in a unique moment in our history. Social justice, civil rights has been an issue that we've all grown up around. We've all been participating in or watching at times from the sidelines. But this is a moment in time where we, as the system of the California Community Colleges, have the support from the highest levels of the infrastructure here in California. You heard from Board President Haynes that you have the complete support of the Board of Governors. You have my complete support to have this conversation, to have a courageous conversation about race and the impacts of decades of structural discrimination on the lives of our students. These are not easy discussions. These are very difficult discussions. And what's even harder is the action that needs to follow after those discussions. So what I can say to you is that I and my team will support you in this work. We are going to push you in this work, and we're going to continue to try and lead from the system office to give you the cover that you need to have this conversation. And what I can also say is that it will not always be easy. I can assure you that you won't have pushback, particularly in communities throughout the state that still have a challenge with the term anti-racist. But we will support you and we will continue to push along with you. So It gives me great pleasure to kick off this week. It gives me even greater pleasure to see one of my old bosses, Secretary Cardona, will be joining you today. So I'm very anxious to hear his thoughts and his words. So with that, I'm going to get out of the way and let this program get going and turn it back over to Dr. Handy. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for being here today and your continued work, Chancellor Oakley. We are really appreciated. Next, I want to bring two individuals to the stage who are going to help merge the importance key between equity and data. The first individual I want to introduce is Dr. Frank Harris. Dr. Frank Harris is a professor of post-secondary education and co-director of the Community College Equity Assessment Lab at San Diego State University. In addition to serving as a professor and co-director of CCEAL, Harris is a senior strategist in the Division of Campus Diversity and Student Affairs. Best known for his expertise in racial, or should we say, inequity in post-secondary education, Dr. Harris III has made important contributions to knowledge about college student development and the social construction of gender and race in the college context. His partner today, Dr. Darla Cooper, is an educational leader and expert in research and evaluation dedicated to using inquiry and data and evidence to improve the lives of all community college students. After serving the past several years as the Director of Research and Evaluation for the Research and Planning Group for the California Community Colleges, Dr. Cooper was selected to be the Executive Director for the Moja Community Education Foundations. Dr. Cooper has extensive experience serving as an external evaluator for several federal and private foundation grants and has worked on various other projects designed to promote student success, including the Aspen Prize for Community College Excellence. Here today, again, to bring you the best of both worlds, data and equity-minded frameworks, is Dr. Cooper and Dr. Frank Harris III.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Handy, for the warm introduction. And of course, it is always an absolute pleasure to share this virtual stage with my colleague, Dr. Darla Cooper. I want to first start by saying good afternoon and thanking our students that are here. And of course, thanking all of our colleagues who are joining us from, if not across the state, but also across the country. As always, it is an absolute pleasure to partake in Black Student Success Week. And that being said, while we have reason to celebrate this third edition of what has grown into a national event, many of us enter this space with significant concerns. Concerns about the declining enrollment of Black students in our California community colleges, which ranges in some cases and in some colleges up to 50%. Next slide. This, of course, is not a new concern, as Black student enrollment has been steadily declining in our system for at least the past 5 years. And of course, the pandemic has had a devastating impact on this phenomenon. So the question we must ask ourselves, what are we going to do different between today and next April to stop the leaky pipeline of Black students who enroll in our community colleges? Next slide. Enrollment concerns notwithstanding, we also have some difficult questions to ask ourselves about Black student completion in our colleges. As indicated by our wonderful colleagues at the Campaign for College Opportunity in their 2021 State of Black Higher Education report, 2/3 of Black students who attend our community colleges leave without earning a degree, certificate, or transfer after 6 years. Now, policy initiatives like AB 705 started to give us some positive momentum towards improving the timeline for completion for Black students in the California community colleges. And so we must figure out, how do we recapture the momentum as we try to dust off the effects of the pandemic? Speaking of the pandemic, as well as we all know, most of our students had to transition from in-person courses and access to student services to doing so online. And we all know that historically, Black students fare much better in in-person courses than they do online, a trend that is clearly evident when we look at statewide course success rates for Black students. That being said, online and hybrid delivery formats are likely here to stay. Thus, we must ask ourselves and make sure that Black students are equally successful in online learning as they are in our in-person formats. Next slide. We also know that Black representation among our faculty and staff at most colleges is not where it needs to be. Again, our colleagues at the campaign reported that the Black student to faculty ratio is 120 to 1 compared to 48 to 1 for white students. And there's a host of compelling evidence that confirms that having access to Black faculty and staff is beneficial to the success and well-being of Black students for a host of reasons. So again, I ask us, what are we going to do different between today and next April to stop the leaky pipeline of Black students who enroll in our community colleges? Next slide. In response to this question, one effort that is currently underway is the development of an institutional report card for Black student success. Dr. Cooper will highlight some key features of it shortly, but a report card will be a useful tool for accountability and measuring progress on key indicators of student success for Black students. It would also provide the data and information that are necessary to have critical dialogue about how best to serve Black students, and it would give students and families the information they need to make informed decisions about where they choose to enroll. And finally, it will give our local community partners the information they need to determine how best to support their colleges in meeting the needs of Black students. With that being said, I will turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Darla Cooper.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. And good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to share this with you. Before I launch into the specifics about the report card, just always want to share who we are, the RP Group, the Research and Planning Group for California Community Colleges, a nonprofit organization that represents the researchers and planners in the college, but also worked with our colleagues to conduct research and provide professional development. Next slide, please. So what is it? This is a working title, and just to do the caveat at the beginning, the report card is not ready yet. It is still in progress, but we thought it was extremely important for you all to know, and especially to highlight it this week, that this is what we're working on, and that we'll share with you at the end what some of our plans are, but did not want to miss this opportunity to share it on this platform with all of you. So again, as Dr. Harris said, we really are trying to provide focus and value regarding all the information that is currently, most of it is already available in a variety of different places. But we want to put the spotlight on the institutions. We want to highlight their outcomes. We want to use that information to identify those factors that are fostering or hindering the success of our students, and then be able to compare and contrast across colleges. So that's the initial kind of intent with this report card. Next slide, please. So what's the purpose? Again, we want to provide the information to our students and their families, first and foremost, but we want, hopefully, that colleges, administrators, faculties, the staff, and our statewide policymakers and other key partners across the state who are working with our community colleges have access to this information, again, at an institutional level. So what is different about this report card is, one, it's going to be all in one place. Like, a lot of the information that's in the report card are available in a variety of different sources, but you, especially thinking about our students and their families trying to navigate all of those is too much of a challenge, and it just shouldn't be that hard to be able to see the picture all in one place. We also wanted to provide a way for people to make comparisons, to understand that not everyone is doing the same, having the same success in supporting our students. And so wanting to place the emphasis on the college, not the students, and then be able to see how colleges stack up against each other, quite frankly, in supporting Black student success. Next slide, please. So what's in the report card? Right now, the data span summer of 2011 through 2019. We have data that are presented in a cohort base where you follow a particular group of students over time to see how they do on the longer term outcomes specifically. We also have snapshots for each individual semester and academic year, depending on the variables. And then the variables, we have 78 different variables in this report card. They are categorized into these 4 areas related to academic outcomes, how our students are using services, what the demographics look like, and then what are the college characteristics that may be relevant for Black students and supporting them. So what are some of these variables? These are not all 78, as you can see, and I'm not going to read these to you, but you can take a glance just to get an idea of what kinds of variables are in those 4 different categories, highlighting both kind of short-term and long-term academic success. What do the campuses look like? Getting back to kind of that student-faculty ratio information. How are students taking advantage of the services that are available? Are they in Emoja? Are they in EOPS? Things like that. And then college characteristics, looking at how large a college is this? Does the college have an Emoja program? And what is the comparison to the Black population in the service area? So again, a variety of different measures. These are not all of them, but just wanted to include that for a taste, so you can get an idea of the power that this report card contains. Next slide, please. So this is a mock-up. This is not what the actual report card would look like, but we wanted to just kind of give you a sense of, because there's a lot of words on a lot of pages, but we want to give you at least one visual of what it might look something like. And you can see there on the right, you'll be able to pick colleges and pick the dates, and you'll be able to pick the variables and be able to see in this one place, how is this college doing supporting Black student success? The numbers you see here are the statewide numbers. We didn't want to put any particular college on blast at the webinar to show this, but you will be able to see this kind of information for each and every college in the California Community College system. So I'll let that sit for just a few seconds, just so you can see, again, the power of this kind of a tool. Let's go to the next slide, please. So what's next? If you notice, we have to still, this is called a report card, and that is intentional. And the idea is that we will need to design a system for grading colleges. And that is one of our key next steps, is to figure out that system and then start assigning grades. We are hoping that we'll be able to launch the report card this coming fall, and then establish a schedule, because obviously data need to be updated on a regular basis. So we want to make sure that we have those things in place. And we're also hoping that we can find a funder who will support this on an ongoing basis, because this should not be a one-shot deal. You saw the information that Dr. Harris presented just on enrollment, and how that's changed dramatically over the last 5 years. So it's be really important to sustain this effort and to keep these data up to date. I thank you for your time and attention, and I will hand it back over to Dr. Harris to introduce Secretary Cardona.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you again, Dr. Cooper. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce the U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona. Miguel A. Cardona is the 12th U.S. Secretary of Education. Secretary Cardona has dedicated his career to serving students, educators, and families as an elementary school teacher, school principal, district administrator, and most recently as Commissioner of Education for the state of Connecticut. Secretary Cardona's focus on equity and excellence for all learners has driven his work at all levels of the education sector. Secretary Cardona has led the federal government's effort to support states in reopening America's public schools for in-person learning amid the recovery from the pandemic, moving from only 46% of schools open when President Biden took office to nearly 100% of schools open today. Under Secretary Cardona's leadership, the U.S. Department of Education also has distributed historic funding through the American Rescue Plan to support K-12 schools and colleges, and has provided nearly $17 billion in student loan forgiveness. Secretary Cardona earned a bachelor's degree at Central Connecticut State University, as well as a master's degree and a doctorate degree from the University of Connecticut. Secretary Cardona and his wife, Marissa, are the proud parents of 2 children who attend public school. Please join me in welcoming our Secretary of Education, Miguel A. Cardona.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So happy to be here. Excited to join you today to take part in Black Student Success Week. What an important week it is. And I just want to make a comment on the remarks that were made by Chancellor Oakley earlier. My video's not started. Nathaniel, peek over, please.
Yeah.
All right. Is the video showing?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you again for the invitation. I'm excited to be a part of Black Student Success Week. And as I said before, I wanted to just kind of make a acknowledgement when Chancellor Oakley said that the work ahead is going to be challenging. It should be challenging, because if it's not challenging, we're going to go back to the systems that we had before, and they didn't work for everyone. So I want to thank that acknowledgement from Chancellor Oakley. And it reminds me of the words spoken by the great John Lewis when he said, sometimes we have to get into good trouble. I also want to thank Compton College President and CEO, Dr. Keith Curry, for the invitation. I met Keith in California, and I have to tell you, Keith, it's a little too warm in DC, but I will be rocking this very soon. Thank you for that and for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. You know, today I want to talk a little bit about the barriers that can impede Black student success in higher education and what we're doing at the Biden-Harris administration to break those barriers down. You know, by the end of the conversation, I hope I have an honorary Equity Avengers title next to my name. You know, at the end of the day, my whole career, not only as an educator, but as a father, is ensuring equity for my children and all children. We come together at a very pivotal moment in our country. You know, it's nobody asked for this pandemic, but we have an opportunity now. Nationwide, enrollment has fallen by nearly 1 million students, with the steepest declines in community colleges and among Black men. It's a reminder that the impacts of the pandemic were not felt equally. And even before the pandemic, the system wasn't working well for all students. College has become increasingly affordable. Federal aid hasn't kept up with the increase in costs. And we have a completion crisis that leaves too many students in debt with no degree, meaning it's going to be hard for them to pay it off. Higher education is supposed to be a bridge to a brighter future, but let's be honest. Our students are crossing some very different bridges. I want to paint a picture of these two bridges today. The first bridge sits atop of a firm foundation of intergenerational wealth. The path is smooth, the span strong, and a safety net is there to catch you if you fall off the bridge. If you're on this bridge, maybe your parents were able to save up for your education or take out loans so you could focus on school first time and not have to work. You may face some headwinds after all. Earning a degree is still hard work, but at the end of the day, there's nothing stopping you from crossing that bridge with the diploma in hand. Now picture another bridge. It's rickety, made of wooden slats and rope, and you must cross it while also carrying a heavy load. Maybe that extra responsibility you bear are the children you're supporting at home or the shifts you have to work and you cannot miss. That bridge has no safety net. Those wooden slats can collapse at any time, and you're faced with constant choices. If your car breaks, are you going to pay the bill for the car or are you going to pay the tuition? When the headwinds come, it's as if the entire structure is trying to throw you off course. It's stressful, it's exhausting. It's no wonder so many students feel it's too much. The Biden-Harris administration is determined to build stronger bridges for all of our students to complete higher education. To start, we're investing in inclusive institutions like yours. California's community colleges serve 2/3 of all Black students in your state. That's important. We cannot build a more equitable economy without you. The American Rescue Plan invested $10 billion in community colleges. And the Department of Education is providing guidance on how these funds can help address students' basic needs. You can't focus on academics if you're worrying about food insecurity, if you're worrying about housing insecurity, if you have mental health issues that are weighing you down. In New Jersey, Bergen County College created more daycare slots for college students with young children. In Texas, El Paso Community College discharged debts. They discharged debts so that the students could re-enroll. This spring, San Jose College offered full-time students the whole semester tuition-free. There's so many stories of how the federal funds were used to support students at the end of the day. I want to make sure we hear from you too. We want to hear your success stories. Let me tell you, there's a whole group of people out there that want to share that the money wasn't needed in education, that the American Rescue Plan funds weren't needed. After all, half of the folks on the Hill did not vote for the American Rescue Plan. We need to step up and share the positive stories of how this money is being used to help address the disparities that exist in our country. We want to hear your stories. The Biden-Harris administration is also investing in affordability. Already, we increased the Pell Grant by $400. That's a down payment on doubling the maximum award. In this upcoming budget, we're proposing close to $2,000 in an increase. We're also helping colleges more easily connect students to existing federal supports like SNAP and broadband assistance. The president's budget includes a new career-connected learning program that will create stronger links between our high schools and community colleges. We are losing too many high schoolers because we're not connecting them earlier to our two-year programs or workforce partners. We need to make better connections, and there's money in the budget to get that done. Let's give more underserved students a head start on their post-secondary education. Now's the time to think outside of the box, think creatively, think transformatively, boldly. Now's our chance to reimagine what higher education can be. You know, nobody asked for this pandemic, but it kind of disrupted it. It blew up our systems. Let's not put it back together the same way it was in March 2020. That system didn't work for many students that look like us. We got to do better. And if that means we're making some folks feel uncomfortable, well, then that's what we need to do to address the inequities that existed long before the pandemic. Our schools should be inclusive, they should be equitable, and they should be affordable. That's how we're going to make a more just and a more prosperous America. Thank you for letting me speak, and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you so much for your inspiring remarks, Secretary Cardona, and thank you for being here today. We continue to be inspired by all the amazing work you're leading for our nation to break down barriers to Black student success and all success for students across the nation. And we are definitely excited to get into good trouble this week and beyond.
All right, do it. Our kids are counting on it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good afternoon again, everybody. As Dr. Bull mentioned earlier, my name is Katrina Linden. I'm proud to be a member of our Black Student Success Week Committee on behalf of the Campaign for College Opportunity, and to moderate these great webinars all week. As we wrap up this final section on today's agenda, I'd like to remind you to check out our live sketch effect for today's conversation, and you'll see it pinned right here on how it's moving along right now. And we'll have this featured for every webinar this week, sketching out our conversation, and will be shared following our week. It's now my pleasure to introduce the moderators of our final section, panel for students and faculty. Alongside Dr. Bull, we have today Dr. Nairi Berry, Professor of Sociology at LA City College and a lead director at Los Angeles Community College District. In addition, we have Michelle Velasquez Bean, Professor of English at Rio Hondo College, as well as the treasurer of the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges and the Equity and Diversity Action Committee chair under the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges. Really excited for this conversation now, and I will pass it over to you three.
Thank you, my dear sister, Katrina Linden. I'm excited to be along in the community with Dr. Nairi Berry, our dear sister, Michelle, in the Academic Senate. And we're gonna throw the first question to you, Dr. Berry. The title and theme of today is Beyond Mattering. What does that mean to you?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Beyond Mattering is going beyond the minimalist approach when we're addressing resources for African-American students. Beyond Mattering means to me addressing the new normal, right? We're dealing with Gen Zers. Gen Zers, we cannot take a traditional approach where we're embedding equity into our programs. Beyond Mattering means going outside the classroom, going into the community, ensuring that our students have equitable housing, equitable employment, equitable family resources. Beyond Mattering means going beyond the minimalist approach. And right now, I'll turn it over to our student, Kenneth Callahan.
What's up, y'all? Kenneth Callahan from Los Angeles City College. Ramadan Mubarak to all those observing this year. Wonderful time. And when I think of Beyond Mattering, I think of love, and not love in the definition of liking or being attracted to something. I think about it in the sense that a very wise student of a student of a student told me, which is it's not just the fulfillment of the needs of self, but it's the anticipation of the needs of others. And when we see that, using the example, we'll take financial literacy. We see that there are massive equity gaps as far as finances within Black and Brown communities, and this has been a historical issue. But when we move into higher education, we see that it is also an additional issue because not only are students put into higher education to get a job to make more money, but they also need a massive amount of, they need to consider difference, how am I going to stay in school with like a job? How is financial aid going to help me? I have a family to take care of. Money revolves around everything. And I think it's a little bit absurd that because it revolves around everything, that it's not a necessity. We have financial literacy courses within our curriculum for these colleges that are available to students, but it's almost like it's hidden unless you're a finance major or like you're working in a business. But it still matters to me as a psychology student. So I would say Beyond Mattering is acting on the needs and the anticipated needs of students without waiting for something tragic to happen to them. If we really want to show that Black students go beyond just mattering at a base level, I think we need to take financial literacy and make it a golden standard in education. To the same degree that we have oral communication, written communication, quantitative reasoning, critical thinking, financial literacy is just as important, if not more important than all of those things. And if we want to show true love and appreciation for Black students, Black and Brown students, inside of education and outside of education, we should give them more opportunities and encourage them to learn about financial literacy, not just to earn money, but to maintain the money that we are giving them through scholarships, through grants, and otherwise. That's what Beyond Mattering means to me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Any other faculty members or students want to tackle on that question before we move on to the next one?
I think I would like to tackle on. So I'm Dr. Elliot Cooney, Counselor Coordinator for the Emotion Program at LA Valley College. Thank you for having me. I think that when we say Beyond Mattering, I think that it's presumptive that Black students do matter. So I think the power of a question is essential, and being able to ask, where do they matter? Do Black students matter in the tokenism sense, where they're only mattering in Black spaces, or are they mattering at the aggregate of our entire campus and institution? Are we affirming that Black students matter, or are we attempting to validate to others that Black students matter? These are all powerful questions. To me, when we look at our system, we have individual colleges in our system that serve a large population of Black students. So beyond the value statement of just money and Black students mattering in these spaces, how do they matter at the campus level? Black students matter when our master plans can racialize this work so we can label what we're doing. Black students matter when Southwest College matters in Los Angeles because they have the largest number of Black students. Black students matter when Compton College matters and the work that Dr. Curry and Nicole Jones and Brother Banks is doing over there with the Black Student Success Director position. These are spaces, Laney College, Merritt College. We need to push the agenda and understand that we need to move beyond this performative talk that is ultimately perfunctory and make sure that we can serve students at the level. When you can step up on a campus and get a feeling of amend, when you can step up on a campus and get a feeling of emotion, that's when you know Black students matter. When we see them, when we hear them, when they have a seat at the table, that is when Black students matter. So I'll keep it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cooney, for that. And you're just going to make me flip out perfunctory. Let me get a dictionary out for that one right there. So if you could tackle on the next question, we'll toss it to you and to Harmony as well, is how can you lead others to help center, as you mentioned, the Black educational narrative? You mentioned explicit programs of working with Black students. How can we help other education leaders center these educational narratives for Black students?
So centering the Black narrative, I think, is very critical. I think ultimately you have to find what the Black narrative is, particularly if you're at a campus where you don't have a lot of Black students or these Black students are not connected. You have to be able to empower, you have to be able to mobilize, and you have to be able to activate. You also have to take a multi-level approach in building that coalition and advisory to create action-oriented steps for each member within their space. I think multi-level channels include advertising, publicizing, and broadcasting the narrative. Something that we did at LA Valley College was we used all mediums of communication. We used the student paper, we used social media, we went into committee spaces and made sure the students knew that they had a right to be there. These are all ways that we can start doing that. Also, we need to be able to get individuals to participate in Black spaces. We have certain faculty members, certain administrators who are not of our affinity group that never show up to any Black event. They never go to any Black conferences. They never do any of this stuff, but yet they're saying that they're going to serve Black students on our campuses. And as our students say, that's cap. And if you're not going to stand 10 toes down on doing this work and being equitable for our students, then what are you in this position for? Why are you in this space? Because if you're not supporting us, you're an obstructionist. In addition to that, I think that we need to involve community, need to build Blacktivism. We're not talking about equity, we're talking about Blackwity, right? We're talking about not activism, but Blacktivism. We need to be able to racialize the work. And if you're scared to use race, and I understand Prop 209 and all these other things, but again, that's also capped. We have spaces where we can hire Black emoji counselors, we can hire Latinx, Puente counselors, but then when it comes to hiring faculty in anti-Black divisions on our campuses, historically, they've never hired any Black faculty member of tenure. That's not substantive work. That's untenable. That is performative. So I think that those are places that we can look at. Also mobilizing the BSU, making sure that they have an understanding of how to operationalize their work and move that needle forward. And really just beyond the performative talk, what happened to that Black success work that we did after George Floyd? What came from that? What happened to all of these Chancellor advisory committees? What came from that? What recommendations? What do we have to show for this work of 2 years of showing up monthly to a meeting? Nothing. Are we a part of the problem, people? I'm sorry, but I might have to come in here and Will Smith us today, but the reality of the, figuratively speaking, the reality of the situation is we need to understand that institutions have to participate. Presidents, VPs, this work cannot be done in the silo of only an Emoja program where you have one counselor serving 200 or 300 students. It's untenable. So I'm going to pass it to Harmony because I'm getting pumped up and I got the juices flowing. But Harmony, please take us away. What does that mean to you?
Well, that's definitely something hard to follow, but I think my experience with the K through 12 system is really an importance of our education and teaching people about our history and making sure it's accurate. And another thing is really empowering Black student groups at universities and at college campuses, because we're the ones that understand the Black educational narrative the most, and we understand what we need the most. So it's really important for administration to really pay attention to us, especially at PWIs, where they're not understanding what we're going through, nor are they willing to listen. So they kind of expect this change to happen without them doing their part of the work. And another thing is really the importance of education and providing these resources to make education accessible. It's not something that is just run-of-the-mill. Education is unfortunately a privilege. So treating it like it's a right and making sure that Black student groups on campuses are valued. That's why I really value my time at Emoja at my community college, also at my African Student Union at UCLA. These are these student-run organizations that get the most work done because we have the drive and the power to make sure that we are heard and to make sure that our needs are answered and our needs are accessible. So I think that's really the most important thing, really providing a spotlight and providing a voice to these students that take up leadership roles at these really sometimes intimidating schools and intimidating administration. So I think that's how I can lead others to center the Black educational narrative.
Thank you so much, Harmony. Thank you so much for that. You know, we heard the Secretary of Education, Carla, mention having made through the pandemic. There are things that we cannot repeat in defining this new norm. So having made through this pandemic, what is one thing that you feel should be kept and continued in this new age of education?
Thank you so much, Dr. Bullon. Thank you so much, Dr. Cooney. You got my spirit fired up a little bit, I have to calm it down to talk about what we really need to focus on bringing back. And so if I could choose one thing and just one thing, it's that intrinsic value of human connection. We are people who are meant to be together. You talked about performative. This work that we do, it stops us from that connection that we have as people. The reason that we went into education, I didn't go into education to be Max Headroom on this box. I went into education because of what community college meant to me and what I know it can mean to my community, So I miss my students. I miss seeing them in the sunshine, not just on this box, but with the sun bouncing off their skin. I miss greeting them and conversing with them and checking in with them. So what I had noticed a little bit in 2019 was we were beginning to not prioritize being together. Our turnout at our events was dropping off. Our club participation was waning a little bit. And I think what the pandemic taught us is how valuable that time that we are together physically, personally, in community together is so important to how we support each other. I miss that. And that's something that we need to bring back. So to our faculty who are watching, when we get back to campus, be present there for our students, reach out to them, find a way to support our Black students on your campus because there are not enough faculty who look like them. So we need our allies to reach out to our students and let them know that, yes, we want them on their campus. Yes, their journey is valuable to us. Their experience is valuable to us. So I put this charge to you to get out of your office when we get back on campus and connect with these students. And to our students, please see each other. Please acknowledge each other and validate each other. We need each other. So that's what I would ask that we bring back. And now I'm happy to pass it on to Brianna.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really appreciative to be here. I love having these conversations. They're difficult conversations, but they are necessary conversations. And I'm glad we are in a space where we can have them. But yes, I completely agree. Everything that you guys were saying previously before coming into the pandemic, it took a while for people to get readjusted to this online communication, this online world. But now that we're here and now that we're kind of in the tail end of it, I think it's important to kind of embrace these changes. And I know we miss people's faces, but hybrid options are also very accessible and they're very easy to navigate. And so I think that's something that I'm really going to vouch for, especially with minority communities. You have disabled communities, you have a lot of neglected communities, and it's important to reach out to these people and make sure that their process in education is just as easy as everyone else's. I know here at UCLA, that's been a very hot topic. We recently have been going in the transition of coming back in person. And our ASU, our African Student Union, was very proactive in fighting for these hybrid options. And in fact, we even did a sit-in where we were able to fight, and we talked to various administrations for that fight. But with that being said, I think it's important to also mobilize these groups. So yes, we have Umoja, we have all these various Black groups, but it's important to stay unified and fight for these and keep doing what we need to do. And also with the world, this new world, it's important to also embrace these hybrid options and these technologies and make it as accessible as possible. So again, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And Brianna, before you hop off real quick, what school did you transfer from? If you could let the whole world know.
Okay, I transferred from Diablo Valley College in Concord, Pleasant Hill area. Yes, and I'm now attending UCLA. I'm studying sociology here.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Professor Rashid Aiden, you work similar to Elliot here with the Moja program. You work with Black and brown men. You heard the Secretary of Education talk about the mass exodus of Black men from our community college systems. As students and faculty, what assumptions do we make that affect the approach towards our educational institutions? Please take us through that.
So I know we have Malcolm here to talk on the student perspective. So I'm going to talk from the faculty perspective, and I'm going to speak on behalf of our institutions, if you'll let me. We make assumptions about our students the moment we see them, right? We look at them and we treat them like a monolith. So for our Black students, and you brought up, our Black males, That means from the moment they step in your class, more likely than not, they're going to struggle in your class. They won't persist, right? Or they're already nefariously planning on how to cheat, right? So an example, if I can use an example, and since we're in COVID, that means as a student, I'm going to require that you get 8 different cameras, motion sensing, to make sure I know you're not cheating on this test. And so these aren't hypotheticals, if we're being real. These are real life situations that have happened in our institutions. These are common occurrences that happen amongst, quote unquote, amongst our educators. So how does our approach towards the education system affect our students? I think we just saw several presentations, right? The proof is in the pudding. We see the data. We see the mass exodus. We see the lowest graduation rates. We see the lowest persistence, transfer rates. By any way you can measure success, right? This is how, these are real consequential things. From the student perspective, because I've had the privilege of, being on both sides of the aisle, I can speak on that all day, but I'm going to pass the buck to Malcolm because I know he's got tons to share with us.
All right, I'm gonna try to keep the tons to a few ounces. My name is Malcolm. I'm a student at San Diego State University. Graduating next month, God willing, and moving on forward with this journey. But the first thing that I want to say is that everybody here is in academia, which most people probably know that they call the ivory tower. All of us are in the ivory tower, and if you never thought about it, ivory tower is really a synonym for white supremacy. It's massive, it's white, and it's something that's used to look down at other people. That's white, and we're in it. We're in it, and we're striving to get higher in the ivory tower, which means we're striving to get higher in the system of white supremacy and colonialism. Let's not forget, in Africa, one of the first things that was established by the colonizers were institutions of higher learning. So one of the assumptions that we make is that a higher number of units equals a higher amount of intelligence, which is absolutely false, first and foremost. I've met brothers in the penitentiary that will walk circles around your favorite intellectual all day. So that's one major assumption that's made, that being somebody that has a high number of units is an intellectual. The next thing is that these spaces, these classrooms are not the misinformation that's being promoted is harmless. That is harmless. I just recently wrote an article about this person I call Curse Word Corlett, Professor Curse Word Corlett, who reportedly used the N-word 60 times in a course of 2 lectures. And that's not my first incident at San Diego State that has been, egregiously horrendous in the classroom. I had a class on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict that was taught by a self-proclaimed Zionist Jew. On the first day of class, he said, "I'm a Zionist Jew, but I'm not religious, and I don't believe that God was sent Moses the 10 Commandments," which means that you're just a white colonizer. The problem is not that he's a white colonizer that's teaching a classroom, that he's a fox in the chicken coop. The problem is that you have a student in the class whose life goal is to be a tank operator. You're going to school to be a tank operator. You're getting a class taught by somebody that believes he has the right to colonize. How are you going to be treating people when you hop behind that steering wheel of that tank? So, I mean, we get into these classrooms, into these spaces, and we undermine how unimportant and how unharmful or unimpactful these ideas are. I think that anybody that's in a space of teaching, every semester they should be saying something so real that somebody should want to fire them. Mm-hmm. And if you're not doing that, then you need to get out the way and let the next person come and teach.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Malcolm. I know we're over time here. If you can bear with us, I know we're losing folks on the call. I know we're at 1 o'clock, but we have one last question that I want to pose to Professor Ebony Tyree, and that is a culmination of his work. How define success? How does it affect your intended impact on Black people in education?
Well, my personal, hello everyone. We'll keep it short, but my personal definition of success is synonymous with liberation. So being free from any and all things, that diminish or hinder your ability to freely flow in your purpose. That's what success means to me. So being successful means being able to flow freely in your purpose. And so in academia, I would just say that we educate, I look to my students to have meaningful learn, create spaces that have meaningful learning, right? Learning that they can use to help liberate themselves, their communities, right? The folks they love. That is what education should do. And so all that's been said up to this point, I think goes along with that ideology. It should be meaningful. It should be liberatory. That's what success is. So if you are creating liberatory spaces in your classroom for students, that you are creating success for them, modeling that as well in your curriculum design, in your course lecture, how your space feels when they come in, it should feel free. Okay, so I'm going to pass it on to Brianna from the other Brianna from UCLA to chime in.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I am so excited to be joining in this conversation, and I promise I'll try to keep it short. But success to me is like also a step past stability. We often find our Black individuals put into careers, but they are neglected or overworked. And that is not being successful. You should be allowed to enjoy your work and its benefits that it will provide you with. And one step in doing this would be, one step in helping us is by helping our community first. And that means helping to alleviate job insecurities in food and resources, and also allowing our students to have more resources on campus that can help them focus on their education and receive benefits of higher education rather than having to be neglected through their struggles. And during my time at DVC in Umoja, it really was my time to see that my community can help me grow. And under Brother Eric, shout out to Brother Eric, he really did help me see that success can be more than just making a lot of money or finding a job right away. You can go back and help your community. And yeah, sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's not a yeah, that's an and yes, for sure.
Right, that's right, Brianna.
Absolutely. Manifest that. Thank you all for sharing today. I know we're over time. We can bring up the sketch effect. I want to thank from the bottom of my heart our faculty and our students for pouring in, being vulnerable, displaying that, modeling that, centering our students, having this co-learner experience. Today you heard, as we watched the sketch effect, about our students and faculty discuss why they should matter, why you should move from a performative stage to an operational phase. It's been 2 years since the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. That sparked a racial reckoning and outrage in this nation. President Pam Haynes mentioned the importance of the time we're in, the historical moment when consistently and constantly advocating for racial equity policy and the importance of that. Chancellor Oakley mentioned, be courageous. You have the cover from the system leader to be bold and anti-racist. Dr. Harrison Cooper mentioned efforts on how the report card will be a tool to stop the leaky pipeline in meeting the needs of our Black students, using data to dissect what efforts are underway that are hindering or harnessing great efforts of our student success. The U.S. Secretary of Education joined us. He mentioned over $10 billion in the American Rescue Plan dedicated to community colleges and debt relief, daycare centers being opened up. But we have to discuss the allocation of resources. We invite you in this work as healers. It's not about how the resources are used. It's not about having the resources, it's how they're used. You don't remedy a headache with Pepto-Bismol and stomach ache medication? How do we continuously and constantly design efforts intentionally and deliberately to uplift populations who are intentionally marginalized? We have to be very prescriptive and detailed and very focused. And that is what this week is about. It requires us to have an introspective reflection and reimagine and not reconstruct the same system that has had a deleterious impact on our students and our faculty. So this week, my brothers and sisters, we invite you on this journey of excellence as we put up the slides. From the practitioners you've heard from our wider students, from the researchers, from the system leaders, to move this work forward. Join us for the after party that's happening right now. The link is available in the chat. I want to thank from the bottom of my heart again, all the panelists, you all for being part of the discussion, and our partners, all of the different planning committee folks from the Equity Avengers, the Academic Senate, the California Community College, Chancellor's Office, the League, the Village Demands, Pipeline to Possibilities, NANDI, the FAC. We also want to thank our brothers in SEAL for doing the great work they're doing, the Student Senate, the Campaign for College Opportunity, Ed Trust West, the NCBAA, as well as our peer group and Emoja and Amend. We are here collectively to ensure that Black students matter. So we invite you, please come tomorrow and every single day from here until Friday for Black Student Success Week. Thank you.